everybody, to Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Indiana Basketball Weekly is brought to you by MyBookie.ag, where you can bet the Indiana-Michigan State game next weekend, or you can bet the conference finals of the NFL playoffs. So make sure you check out MyBookie.ag. Go to thegruelingtruth.net, click the banner. It'll take you right there with a 50% bonus up to $3,000. I'm your host for the Indiana Weekly Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome my co-host, former Indiana Hoosier, national champion, and a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Mike. Look, Indiana starts playing well, and you get the introduction right. You see, winning and is just infectious into everything and everybody. That's the first time you have got that introduction right. And Indiana played probably their best Big Ten basketball game of the season tonight. I just tell you, it just goes what I said all along. Winning is infectious. It leads to good things and confidence happening across the board. Congratulations, and I hope this is the same talk Coach Miller gave the boys today after the game.
Well, I mean, we all know I'm just here to boost your ego, Steve, because we all know you need it.
It's a fragile thing, trust me.
All right, so
how about the Hoosiers today?
I know Indiana wins 66-46. There was three big takeaways for me today. Number one was, Archie Miller has a strict two-foul rule where if you get two fouls, you come out of the game. Juwan Morgan gets in foul trouble right off the bat, and they didn't thrive without Morgan, but they still played well without Morgan, well enough to have a 5-point lead at halftime, and I think that is something this team would not have done just a couple weeks ago.
No, not at all. It kind of bodes well to what I opened up with kind of in a little humorous way, was winning basketball games makes you brave. And it puts confidence into your system, into what you're doing. It kind of validates what you and I have talked about since we started the season. And this team does not have a talent issue. We are not at the same level of talent as a Duke or North Carolina right now, or an upper echelon team. But we don't lack talent to where we can't be competitive at the level necessary to make ourselves respectable in the conference play and possibly in the postseason play. So it's not really been a talent issue, and I think it comes out today. We see that it's been a heart issue to me. It's about how bad do these kids want to go out and play, represent themselves, and represent the university. Now, what I sense is happening is that looking at things and kind of getting the feel. Again, I have not been to a practice, and I do not know Coach Miller extremely well, but I know kind of how coaches operate overall. I think what he's probably doing is making practices a lot more competitive rather than just trying to preparative. And there's a huge difference. Knight always made sure that his practices were incredibly competitive. You fought every practice for a starting spot and for minutes on the court. And I don't know if maybe some of the issues that Indiana was having with complacency, lack of leadership, which still exists to the biggest fault that I see on the court, but that just the complacency issue was that lack of competitiveness that was going on in practice. Tonight, what I saw covering the passing lanes. I saw blocking out. I saw hustle on defense. I saw switching players off. I saw communication. And I saw a defensive effort that is second to none to any that we've seen this year, to the point where I'm going to mention the only time I really go to the stat sheet and look, and I say this because I think of the defensive effort, the 2-point field goal percentage for Northwestern today was 26%. That's because of defense, all right? That's not because of a poor shooting night. Poor shooting night would be 30 to 35%. 26% on 2-point field goals would be just you get your shots taken away from you, and you cannot produce a good shot. And bullying to the kids for playing great defense, hustling, communicating, talking, finding the open man, a lot of hustle going for loose balls. So, they're doing what we said they need to do. They needed to win this stretch of games down here. They're 3 or 4 now, and they're going to face a Michigan State team, which all of a sudden looks a little beatable. I mean, Michigan State doesn't look like the vaunted, let's run away with the Big Ten team we thought they were 4 weeks ago. They got beat by Michigan. They're getting played well by Ohio State. Maybe Indiana goes into this with a lot of confidence, and maybe they win, maybe they don't. but they play them hard. And by playing Michigan State hard at Michigan State, they can do nothing but elevate their stature in the Big Ten and in the eyes of the selection committee down the road.
Yeah, and you talked about the defense and the communication. I think another thing that was miles ahead of where it's been in the past, that was the rotations on defense. And I think they started early. They held the Wildcats to just 3 points in the game's first 12 minutes. Point guard Brian McIntosh couldn't find any rhythm at all. They held Scotty Lindsey for the game to 1 of 15, and as you said, 26%. And I think it ended up that Northwestern averages like 0.7 points per possession. But the rotation being crisp, and a lot of that has to do with the communication, but the rotations were far and above anything we've seen this season.
Yeah, there were 9 players for Indiana that got over 14 minutes in the game. That is spreading the wealth. That tells me they're competing in practice because kids are getting an opportunity to compete for a position, compete for minutes, and he's spreading the minutes out and just saying, we're not just going to rely on Johnson and Newkirk because they're our senior guards. We're going to give the playing time to the kids who are going to go out and practice and work hard for it. When you got 9 kids getting over 15 minutes of playing time in a game, and I'm talking about in the battle of the game, not just in the last mop-up minutes, that tells me he's giving kids a chance to compete. He's giving his younger players a chance to compete. Number 11, Devontae came in and made some big plays in absence of Dewan, and we're starting to fill some roles. And it's, and I heard Clark Kellogg say this, it's always a process when a new coach comes in. And I've tried not to be hard on Coach Miller, and I don't want to be hard on Coach Miller because he has to transition this program into his world. And, us as fans, it doesn't happen quick enough for us because we're just Indiana fans. We expect Indiana to win all the time. But, he's a coach. He's in there day in and day out getting the things done that need to be done. And he's starting to build that momentum now to where we're getting confidence. Confidence breeds success. Success creates opportunity. Opportunity leads to good things happening to good ball clubs. And again, we say all along, this team does not lack talent. I want to keep reemphasizing that. This is not an untalented basketball club in any way, shape, or form. They should be winning like this. And I'm glad to see that it's finally coming through to them. Now they've got a little tougher stretch coming up now for, the next 3 of the next 4 games. They've got to play Michigan State, Maryland, and Purdue. And then Ohio State. So 4 of the next 5 games, same with Illinois in between, which is at Champaign-Urbana. So while we've had this opportunity to kind of circumvent ourselves into this confidence level, we now are going to get it tested real quick now with 4 of our next 5 games being against upper echelon teams in the Big Ten and going to Illinois to play, which, as I've played there many times, is not necessarily an easy place to play in. It's in the middle of a cornfield. It's going to be cold as snot there. Those crowds, they don't have a lot to do in Champaign-Urbana besides go cheer on basketball team games. And they're going to be ready to take on Indiana, as they always are every time we play. So put a little bit of metal to it right now and see how far we really come. But we definitely have come a long way since you and I started this conversation about the relative importance of winning 4 of the next 5 games.
Yeah, and when we look at this, the thing that really impressed me was we haven't seen a game where they've played all 40 minutes. They have a lot of peaks and valleys. Hell, their season's been peaks and valleys where you'd get a Notre Dame game and you come back and you lose to Wisconsin. So I think that's one thing that's important. But the other thing I think is important is, as you notice, I think this is the first show where we've been 10 minutes in and not said anything bad about Robert Johnson or Josh Newkirk.
No, you're exactly right. And I thought even what I saw when I was looking at those two and seeing what kind of contribution they were making relative to the other younger kids who were just playing hard, and I saw them elevate their game in every facet of the game, except I still think they're lacking in the leadership they need to be providing. And I don't know that I'm going to be happy with that for the entire season until I see those kids just start coaching on the court like they should be doing. But what I saw was I saw Johnson stepping into his three-pointers, not just kind of shooting off balance and falling back as he's shooting. I mean, he was ready to shoot when the ball came to him. The players were looking for him, and he was stepping up into his threes. He was taking good threes, good, well-thought-out threes. Their shot selection was much better for those two, and for Colin Hartman, I thought, had a much better shot selection. tonight, and I was just coming in thinking, okay, I'm a long-range bomber. Let me just fire up a three. Collins' shot selection was real good. And I thought everybody played well within themselves and were well within their abilities. And that's what you've got to have. You don't have to have 10 superstars on a team. You have to have 10 parts working together as one big cog with all the gears meshing, or as many as you possibly can get to drive home, put the drive to the rear axle and get the horsepower you need to win ball games.
All right, and the next game, as you said, Michigan State, Friday night, January 19th, at East Lansing. Michigan State has not played well the last three games. They got blown out by Ohio State. They only beat Rutgers by 4 at home on last Wednesday. And then, of course, yesterday, Michigan comes in and beats them at Michigan State by double digits. So this is a game that, while very winnable now, it looks like, you also got to worry about Tom Izzo having 6 days to prepare, coming off of 3 bad games. And Indiana's flying high, but Michigan State with Tom Izzo having that long to prepare, coming off of 3 bad performances, does worry me.
Well, the way I see this, we're in a win-win situation here, really, in this game now. We're in a win-win because we've upped our game. We're playing the best basketball we played in the Big Ten. Michigan State has played some poor basketball. Now, they can react to that one of 2 ways. I think we all would, if we're going to bet part of our farms, we know which way we bet, is that Izzo will have them prepared and ready to play. I think that's probably the case because he's just too good of a coach to not. But, a couple bad things go against them early in the game. They get a couple players in foul trouble. We make a couple big buckets. They start doubting themselves again real quick. They start staying. They get called right back into their funk. All these teams are human. So we're in the best possible. We have nothing to lose here. We're going into their home. They're ranked in the top 10, or were until this last week. And we're the only ones that can really walk away from something good happening here for us. If we win, that's the best case scenario. If we lose, but we play our asses off and play them down to the wire, that's the second best thing that could happen to us. We get blown out, that's what's expected because they've had a bad week. Izzo's a great coach. So I really don't see a bad scenario unless we go in there and Michigan State doesn't elevate themselves and we puke on ourselves. That's the only really 1 out of 4 things that can happen Friday night are really going to become a detriment or liability to us. But somehow I got to have a lot of faith in Coach Miller too. He's not going to let us happen to us now. I think he sees that momentum swinging and that tide rising. And I think he's going to keep that level of competitive spirit up in practice. He's going to keep the kids hot, competitive. They've got positive things to talk about in film now. They've got positive things to talk about in preparation. And it's just a whole lot more fun. I mean, when we were winning big games at Indiana, no matter, night could be the same as he was every day of the year, but it's more fun to take him when you're winning. And you're not only just winning, you're playing well. And right now, Indiana's playing as good a basketball as played all year. It's a process for them. They've stepped into this. They've chipped away at it, and now's gut check time. How much can we sustain it? Because it get back into a one and done situation for them. They could go get blown out and fall right back into where they were, back in their ebb and flow game that we've seen all through the first 2/3 of the season. So yeah, I'm real positive here.
Yeah, and I think the key to this game, and the only way they win this game, is if Newkirk and Johnson do show some leadership, because you got the key to Michigan State is Miles Bridges. And Miles Bridges is one of the best guards in the country. And if Newkirk and Johnson just start throwing threes up haphazardly, they don't get penetration, they don't move their feet on defense, this game will be over quickly. But I think these guys are definitely capable of coming out, playing a big game, and being in this to the end.
Definitely. I mean, and you're right, the leadership is critical here because, these kids, Johnson, Newkirk, Hartman, even Jawan, to a large degree, they've been through this before. They've played these kinds of games before. They play these teams. You're playing a lot of younger players all of a sudden now who are getting significant minutes. And, they're going to be looking to these guys to see how they react to the on-court pressure and the intensity that goes on in a ball game like this. So that leadership is really necessary. And these young kids are going to be looking right in their eyes going, Get us through this. Come on. We're going to follow your lead. And I hope that Johnson, Newkirk, and Colin, especially because they are the seniors on this basketball club, really keep it up. I hope that McRoberts has another one of those leave it all on the floor type games that he can make things happen without having the ball in his hand. And that's what it's going to take. It's definitely going to take that kind of effort. And it's still, even on top of that, it's going to take a couple bad breaks on Michigan State because they are a very talented ball club, no doubt about it. But if the young kids see these older guys fighting through that, not getting rattled, we got a ball game on our hands Friday night, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have fun talking about it later on that night or first thing Saturday morning whenever we decide to get back on the air.
All right, Steve, you want to tell everybody where they can find us on the internet?
They can go to Grueling Hoops. You can leave any questions you want there, and again, we will respond. My website is srisley34, or website, my Twitter page is srisley34. So we take any questions there, broadcast it all back out to you. And I know we have Facebook pages. I'll leave that to you because those are all your Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And go from there. But we'd love to hear from you. Give us some good questions. I used to say the only question you don't ask is the only stupid question you can ask is the one you don't ask. Coach Knight would always have a little different spin on that, saying that anybody have an intelligent question to ask, and nobody could generally come up with an intelligent question. But we'll take intelligent questions or even unintelligent questions. Well, we'll even take questions about Dan Dock. We'll take questions about Dan Dockage because Dan seems to be on a rant against Indiana right now too. So we'll even take some questions about Danny. So
that's all right because Dan was a part of that East Regional semifinal upset of North Carolina. So he can.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, he can do whatever, say whatever he wants to.
Yeah,
he's big time.
Yeah. Plus, he's what on CBS or ABC, one of the two. I don't even know what channel I'm watching anymore.
I don't. ESPN. ESPN.
Is it ESPN?
Yeah.
All right. Well.
ESPN.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. We'll be back. We're going to do a show Friday night right after the Michigan State upset victory.
Yeah, let's do one after the game. Let's do one after the upset victory. Let's have a victory party.
All right, so Friday night, victory party at Steve's house. If you can't make it, which if you want, go to @GruelingHoops, and Steve will send you the address to his house, and we'll have a party at Steve's house. But if you can't make it, you can listen to the party Friday night immediately after the Indiana-Michigan State game. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to remind you that Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, we will have the NFL Pick'em Show, Conference Championship breakdowns, with former Denver Broncos Super Bowl 21 guard Mark Cooper. And make sure you check out everything else at thegruelingtruth.net. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.